Hello intermediate classes, this is Mr. Hardacre. I am going to be walking you through 9.4a today, where we are going to factor quadratics. So our essential question is, how do I change a general form equation into a factored form equation? And how do I change factored form equation into vertex form? And then how do I find the roots when given a general form equation? Okay, so we're going to be spending a lot of time today going from general to factored form. Okay, if you recall that from the previous unit. So this is the exact opposite of what we did in 9.3, which is what we did in the last unit. So instead of expanding and using the boxes, we're going to be doing what is called factoring. Now, factoring is quite simple once you get the hang of it, but it does take a while to get the hang of something. So looking at our first equation, x squared plus 2x minus 8. So if we think back to when we did the box, okay, when we had the box, we knew that we had an x up here, x over here, and then some number there and some number here, okay? And we got general form. So we're just going to do the exact opposite of that. So we're going to start in the box and work our way out. So we knew that x squared went in the top left. We knew that negative 8 went in the bottom right. And then in these two boxes, this is the two numbers that add to 2x, okay? So somehow we got to figure out what numbers add to 2x, but also need to multiply to negative 8. So we're going to ask ourselves two questions. What two numbers, when we add them together, gives us 2? And what two same numbers that when we multiply gets us negative 8. So now we need to go through the factors of negative 8 and figure out which ones, when we add them, give us 2. So let's work through the factors of negative 8. So negative 8 can be multiplied to negative 8 and 1, but that's not going to work because negative 8 plus 1 doesn't equal 2. So negative 4 and 2, well, that's not going to work because that gets us a negative 2. But if I flipped my signs around and got 4 and a negative 2, that still multiplies to negative 8. But now it adds to 2. So then I would know that this has to be 4x, and this has to be negative 2x. So then that would be 4, and that would be negative 2. So then my final answer would be x plus 4 and x minus 2. Now, I'm not a huge fan of drawing the box. I think it can get messy. So instead of doing that, what I do is I just go straight to what adds to and what multiplies to. And I can always know that because what adds to is always my b value. So it's always going to be what adds to negative 4. And then what multiplies to is always going to be my c value, so then that will be 3. So now I can just go through and look at the factors of 3. So what multiplies to 3? Well, that's 1 and 3, or negative 1 and negative 3. And then which one of those adds to negative 4? Well, then that would be negative 1 and negative 3. And then I can go straight to my parentheses and have it be x minus 1 and x minus 3. And then that would be your final answer. So we're just going to continue practicing these as we go. So looking at number 3, I am looking for two numbers that have to add to 3. So what plus what equals 3. And then I'm looking for two numbers that have to multiply to negative 10. So what times what equals negative 10. Okay, so now I need to break down negative 10. So what two numbers multiply to negative 10 and add to positive 3? So what So what multiplies to negative 10? So that's 1 and negative 10. Well, that adds to negative 9, so that doesn't work. So then there's 2 and negative 5. So that adds to negative 3. That's close. So when you get something like that, try flipping the signs. So try negative 2 and positive 5. And that is our two numbers, because negative 2 plus 5 is 3, and negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. So then that means that x minus 2, notice that since it's a negative 2, it's a minus 2, and x plus 5, since it's a positive 5, it's a plus. And then you have your final answer, and that is factored. You can always check your answers by going from the box. So if I do x minus 2 on the top and x plus 5 on the side and fill in the box, I should get x squared plus 3x minus 10. Okay, I'm going to skip number 4. You can try that one on your own, and I will go and do number 5 here. So number 5, same thing. So I'm looking to what adds to 6 and what multiplies to 9. So what two numbers add to 6, and those numbers also need to multiply to 9. So let's break down 9. So 1 and 9, 3 and 3. Oh, look, 3 plus 3 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. So that would be x plus 3, and x plus 3 again, because it's the same number. Or if you're super lazy like me, and you want to write it with less work, you could also write it as x plus 3 squared, because you have 2 of them. Either one of those will work. All right, you try 4 and 6 on this side, and then on the back side, we'll do a couple more and then end with that big problem. All right, on the back side here, I'm only going to do 7 and 10, and then you can try 8 and 9 on your own, and then we'll look at that big problem down below. So again, we're going to go through these same steps. What adds to 7 and multiplies to negative 18? So what adds to 7 and what multiplies to negative 18? So look at negative 18 and break down negative 18. So when looking for factors, I always start with 1, then go to 2, then go to 3, and then go to 4, and so on. So I always start with 1. So 1 and negative 18. And then I move on to 2. 2 and negative 9. 3 and negative 6. Try 4 in your calculator. It doesn't work. It gets you a decimal. Same with 5. So now we're back to 6 and negative 3 and 9 and negative 2 and then negative 18 and 1. So this is all of the ways you can get negative 18. One of these ways is how you can get 7, and you just have to find it. And then that would be 9 and negative 2. 9 plus negative 2 is 7, and 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. So then your final answer would be x plus 9 and x minus 2. Okay, and then lastly, let's look at 10 over here. So notice how there's not a number in front of x. So there's still a number there. We just don't ever write it. And that number is 1. So what adds to 1? And then what multiplies to negative 12? So again, break down negative 12. And again, I always start with 1. So 1 and negative 12. 2 and negative 6. 3 and negative 4. 4 and negative 3. 6 and 2, negative 2, and 12 and negative 1. Okay, one of these adds up to 1. I just have to find which one it is, and that would be 4 and a negative 3. So then it's going to be x plus 4 and x minus 3. Now, it doesn't matter how you write it as long as x plus 4 is together and x minus 3 is together. So if you wrote x minus 3 first, that is okay. Doesn't matter the order, just as long as the group is together. All right, so you try 8 and 9, and then we'll scroll down and look at this big one. All right, so it says convert general form to factored form, which is exactly what we've been doing. And then it has this one additional step that says stating the roots. Because remember, when we're dealing with factored form, we know what the roots are. So our step is exactly the same as before. What adds to negative 11 and what multiplies to 28. So we're going to write those two questions out. So what adds to negative 11 and what multiplies to 28. So if you don't know the factors of 28 off the top of your head, you can use your calculator and start with 1. So that would be 1 and 28. And then move on to 2, and that comes out to 14. You can try 3. It doesn't work. So then we move on to 4 and get 7. And then 5 doesn't work, and then 6 doesn't work, and then we're back to 7. Okay, so 7 and 4 and 14 and then 2 and 28 and now 1. Okay, but notice that when I add all these up, I'm going to get a positive number. But if you look, I want that to actually be a negative 11. So that means I have to recall my lovely operation skills and know that a negative times a negative is also going to get me a positive 28. So all of those are going to be negatives. And now which ones add up to negative 11? Well, you can do negative 4 minus 7 or negative 7 minus 4. Either one will work. So negative 4 and negative 7, negative 4 and negative 7. So that means that this is going to turn into x minus 4 and x minus 7. And if we want it to be in general form, we just put our y equals in front, and there's general form. Now we have to state the roots. Well, remember that factored form in general is just x minus r and x minus r. Sometimes there's an R1, sometimes an R2, and R's stand for roots. So now it's basically like matching. So root 1 matches with the 4. Notice that my signs are the same. So then all I'm going to say is root 1 equals 4. Same thing over here, match the 7 with the root 2. The signs are the same, so I can just make 7 positive. So then root 2 is equal to 7. So then those are my roots. Now it wants me to find the vertex and the y-intercept, and then write vertex form. So this is recalling everything that we did from the last unit. Well, if I know my roots, are 4 and 7, and I know that the vertex is halfway in between them, so I can do 4 plus 7, divide that by 2. So 4 plus 7 is 11, and 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. So I know that 5.5 is h, my first number of my vertex. So 5.5 comma something. Now to find the something, I take my 5.5 and plug it into either equation. You can use the general one or you can use your factored one. It does not matter to me. So then I'm going to do 5.5 minus 4 times 5.5 minus 7 and multiply that out. So I'm going to actually type that in my calculator. So 5.5 minus 4 times 5.5 minus 7 and that comes out to be negative 2.25. So then that number is my k. So that's my vertex. Now I'm going to write it in vertex form. So vertex form is y equals parentheses x minus h, so my first number, so 5.5 squared, and then plus my k, which is negative 2.25. So there's vertex form. And then lastly, the y-intercept, well, that was already given to us. The y-intercept is c of general form. So the y-intercept is 28. All right, so that big one, that's a lot to cover. We'll continue going over that as we go throughout this unit. A lot of it you've already been tested on. Okay, today the main focus was converting general form to factored form, which was this right here. All right. Continue working on the practices, try 9.4a, and then watch the video 9.4b when that comes out. Have a wonderful day.